Hey everyone, Ryer here. There's been a lot of talk about uni content creation recently, and all that talk has finally gotten me off my butt to do a video. So welcome to an Under Night content video. This should be a fun one. No shade to anyone in this video. This is purely for fun, just a heads up. But this is an idea that I've been sitting on for a while, and I've finally decided to put it together. So I hope you enjoy. Hey everyone, Editing Ryer here with a quick note at the beginning of the video. I realized about halfway through that my microphone will pop and peak. Peak is the wrong word. My microphone will pop it a couple times and I'll lose a word here or there. Unfortunately, I don't really have the time or ability to re-record everything that I recorded. So yeah, you'll hear a couple voice cracks and maybe a word drop every once in a while. Please forgive me for that. I do hope you enjoy the video, but I did want to just cut in at the beginning and let everyone know that that is something to expect during the video. Anyways, enjoy. Thanks. Love you. Bye. So, what is this video about? Under Night Sys Celeste is right around the corner, and I know how many people are excited for it. We'll have a lot of continued players from Uniclear coming in, but I know that there are also going to be brand new players coming into the franchise, and they might not know where to start. So, you may have heard of the Myers-Briggs personality test. Well, allow me to introduce the Ryer's Big Personality Test. I have selected 4 categories that I think are important when you're thinking about your character in Under Night. So if you don't know where to get started, this could be a good place to do so. If you already play a character and are watching this video, maybe see if they fall into the category that I listed. See if you are the type of player that I say the character is fit for. As always, this is all in good fun. I don't mean anything super serious here. Don't take anything too seriously. So with that, I'll explain the criteria and let's have some fun. Here are the categories I've developed with years of research, and I've boiled it down to 4 simple questions. Question 1. Do you mash or do you block? Are you more likely to defend in a stressful situation, or are you more active participants in defense and scrambles? Be honest. Number 2, are you cycle aware or cycle negligent? I know everyone who currently plays Under Night is going to say that they are always hyper-focused on the cycle here. Bruh. Except maybe my Byakuya players. But this question really asks, how much do you base your decisions off of the cycle? Or if you're a new player, how much do you want to think about the cycle as you get started in the genre? Number 3, are you an option selector or are you a reactor? How solidly do you want to have defensive options? Do you want an abundance of tools that deal with a spread of options? Or do you want to have powerful tools that specifically call out singular options? An option selector wants like a good 3C, a strong force function, something that they can OS with throw tech, things that you can do on defense without having to think too hard or make a guess for the opponent, where a reactor will take more risks, will make more call-outs, and often get a greater reward. Number 4, are you a scientist or are you a freestyler? This is similar to question number 3, but speaking to your offense. Do you want to have rigid set play that you can loop or repeat or go for over and over and over again? If so, you're a scientist. Do you want something more freestyle and more free-flowing and maybe something a little riskier that can offer bigger rewards? Then you may be a freestyler. Think about these for a moment while I pause the video, and afterwards, I'll break down the 16 resulting types. And if you're curious, my types are BNOS. Alright, so let's get into the types of players. I've given them funny little names as well. You might know in like the Myers-Briggs test, they have like the advocate or the cheerleader or things like that. So I have similar things when it comes to it. So let's see where you fall. Starting with MAOS, the Professor. The Professor loves to play a solid game plan, even if that means a boring one. You like characters who can generate plus frames, characters who can exert safe pressure, and can react to opponents trying to take a turn in an untimely way. If you want to play a solid strike throw game, backed up with reversals, and an offense that is as flexible as it is autopilotable, you may be MAOS. At a higher level, this style carries with it a burden of knowledge, though, as high-level players will know your moves just as well as you do. You'll never be at a loss for options, but you might get outpaced. Characters I recommend for MAOS are Akatsuki and Hyde, and MAOSs like plus frames, protagonist-style characters, and having an abundance of tools. Next, we'll go to MAOF, the Experimenter. The Experimenter is similar to the Professor in that they're willing to take their turn, play the system, and have an abundance of options. The difference here is players under this category are more willing to, well, experiment. In a match, they'll take riskier reads, they'll do otherwise unsafe actions to catch their opponents off guard, and they like to overwhelm their opponent's actions. If MAOS can be thought of as a mid-range type character, this is your rushdown type character. MAOFs like characters built for quick decision-making and long-reaching committal options that can beat opponents who aren't ready for them. Characters I recommend: Linné, Wagner, and Aurier. MAOFs like honest mids, having a couple cheapies in the bag, on an otherwise solid character, and a variety of call-out options. MARS, the Detective. The Detective retains the traits of the previous two in that they are active system users. However, the Detective really likes to scout out their opponent's defense. You play best when you're on offense, and you're willing to interrupt your opponent's turn, aka mash, to get that turn back. Once you have the turn, you look to steamroll your opponent and exploit their defensive habits in order to take the game. If you like to get your game plan started even from full screen and are willing to call out opponents' movements and offensive habits as you have a read on them, you may be MARS. Characters I recommend for this type of player are Landrekia and Nanase. MARSs like a full screen game plan that you can get started at any time and force your opponent to respect, offensive all-rounders, and DP into CS. MARF, the Heart. The Heart player is a universal concept in fighting games. The Heart player goes with the rhythm of the match. Set play, defensive option selects, and deep labbing of specifics interactions aren't really on the forefront of your mind for your gameplay experience. Playing is largely about the vibe of the game and how you can best ride that. Heart players will make hard callouts on opponents' offensive and defensive options, and often get paid off for it. If you're the type of player who is known to have the read, or will go for something because it worked, you may be a Heart player. You like characters with strong tools that can beat specific things that the opponent's doing and give great reward for doing so. Characters I recommend for Heart players are Mika and Gordeau. MARFs like hard callouts, reversal baits, and guess for game scenarios that lead to scrambles or result from scrambles. MNOS, the Machine. The Machine does not care about what their opponent is doing. The Machine is the type of player who wants to play their game on both offense and defense and really doesn't pay a lot of attention to what the opponent has shown. You like strong, ubiquitous tools that force the opponent into uncomfortable situations. You like reversals that can get you out of bad situations. You don't really want to think about the cycle, and you want tools that handle it for you, or just don't really care if your opponent is CSing in response to things. Ultimately, you want to play your game, and your opponent must adapt or die. Characters I recommend for MNOS are Byakuya and Carmine. MNOS is like set play, looping safe jump situations, and reversal safe okizeme. MNOF, the Confident. Similar to the Machine, the Confident is looking to execute their game plan on offense. The only difference here is that it's a less manufactured set play game plan and more of a reads-based, OS crush, defensive habit abuse style of offense. You can't autopilot in every match, but you have strong scouting situational reads that you want to route into. You want a lot of tools that get your game plan started, either from close range, long range, or even sometimes on your wake up. Shoutouts to Merkaba Reversal. So you're never out of it on defense. The greatest feeling for the confident is to DP on their wake up, turn the tide of the match, and reverse perfect the opponent. Characters I recommend for MNOF are Merkaba and Byakuya. MNOFs like DP into I win, exploiting bad habits of their opponents, and mildly scripted set play that can be adapted based on the situation. MNRS, the king or queen. The king and queen love to play a one-player game. They are attracted to characters that can roll an opponent on offense and don't care if there's much defensive weight to back it up. They will spend everything to get their offense started. Wake up VO, wake up burst. If this sounds like you may be an MNRS. If you can get the opponent full screen and get your game plan started, you're often winning. This category of player is the largest set play enthusiast and is also the most unflinching when it comes to their opponent's game plan. If your defensive callout doesn't work though, expect to get punished and probably lose the round, as you don't have much else to fall back on. Characters I recommend for MNRS are Hilda, Carmine, and Chaos. MNRS is like uninhibited set play, full screen ways to get said set play started, and mashing into win the game. MNRF, the Rogue. The Rogue is an interesting player category. The Rogue's key focus is being active and always doing something to impact the screen in some way. You like powerful moves that might swing the grid cycle, perhaps some other cost associated to them, but are so effective that they're worth it. You also like filling the screen with fireballs. You also like moving all the time. You like strong tools that let you go with the flow, similar to the MARF. And you will call out opponents' options if they present the opportunity. The difference between the MARF and the MNRF is pretty small, but largely just depends how much you value strength in your toolkit versus the ability to play the cycle more adequately. Characters I recommend for MNRFs are Phonon and Seth. MNRFs like strong tools, even if they have a cost associated with them, and free-flowing game plans that can be adapted on the fly. BAOS, the Patient. Aha, yes. Okay, now we are reaching the B portion of the characteristics. The blockers, the lamers, the people who like to slow the game down. Players who fall into the patience category love to play the back and forth system of the game. I feel like a lot of you have assigned yourself here, and let me just tell you, a lot of y'all are mashers. You're not here. Don't even deny it. Don't even deny it. You're here. You're not here. You're here. Or here. Or here. Okay. So, if you actually find yourself here after some self-reflection, it's because you like to wait to take your turn. That doesn't mean you're not taking your turn because you can't. It means you will often forego taking a turn if it's sketchy in order to wait and watch. You like using cycle to get guaranteed opportunities to get your offense started. And you also expect a fair degree of back and forth counterplay on your offense. The patient want to outplay their opponent at the interaction level, not just at a set play or pressure level. Characters I recommend for the patient: Eltnum, Seth, and as I said at the beginning, to be fair, you can play anybody here. If you legitimately consider yourself here, you will be a good Under Night player. Pick the character you think is coolest. BAOS is like blocking, deep game knowledge, and calculated gameplay over scripted gameplay. BAOF, the Stoic. The Stoic takes the ideas of the patients, but wants to have more flash and variability on their offense. Stronger tools to call out opponents' defensive habits live here, and more versatile options that may not be as strong in every situation. If you're somebody who is patient and willing to block, but once it's your turn, you're willing to take the risks, you may be the Stoic. This is the type of player who gets one opening, makes one or two proper reads, and then melts the opponent as a result. Characters I recommend for the Stoic: Enkidu, Laundrakia, and Wagner. BAOFs like CS into reversal, strong staggerable normals, and stagger pressure that leads to spacing traps to allow the opponent to make a mistake. BARS, bars, the Opportunist. The Opportunist likes to lean on their defense and defensive reads to survive the opponent's offense and then start a strong offense on their own terms. Rather than use option selects or strong reversal options or even the cycle sometimes, this player would rather figure the opponent out as they get pressured and know that eventually, if they can figure them out, victory will come in time. You find the opportune time to take your turn back by observing rather than experimenting, and once you have started your counteroffensive, the opponent will have few chances to try again. This player is the worst player to run into in a long set, as you may win early on, but eventually as they figure out your habits, they will win. They tend not to like RPS situations either, and will often just escape if given the chance. BARS's offense is also hard to react to, as it's usually layered with 50-50s or hard to blockables. Characters I recommend for BARS are Chaos, Nanase, and to a lesser extent Carmine. BARS is like set play with backed by good neutral and waiting out the opponent's offense rather than stealing a turn back. BARF, I apologize in advance. It just worked out that way. This is the momentum. This is exactly as it is named. These are the momentum-based players. If they get the hit at round start, you might not get to play. Knowing this, most momentum-driven players will try once at round start, and if that doesn't work, they will wait patiently until they are given another opportunity. Their reads are top-notch, their defense is pretty good, and they're pretty good at winning in RPS situations as well. If you like to scramble and roll that into a victory, and are also willing to wait if necessary, you may be a momentum-based player. Willing to make a hard read if necessary too if the game is on the line. I know a lot of times grappler players will fall into this. They know when they have to be patient, but they also know when they have to turn it on and 360 and hope. On that note, characters I recommend for BARF are Waldstein and Akatsuki. And again, I'm so sorry for the acronym. It just worked out that way. BARFs like big comebacks and always having a shot in the game rather than being well-rounded. BNOS, the Mountain. The Mountain, much like the King and Queen, is looking to run their own game plan, but isn't looking to force it into action if the game state doesn't call for it. The Mountain doesn't feel necessary to have a strong reversal option, as much as they would rather have the ability to keep the opponent from engaging in the first place. They are like mountains that must be climbed in order for the opponent to start their game plan. You still want some ways to maybe get out of jail free though, in case your opponent does rush you down or overcome your game plan, so the Mountain isn't a full-blown zoner, but is pretty close. Characters I recommend: Vatista, Yuzuriha, and Merkava. BNOS is like zoning that leads into set play and making the opponent come to them. BNOF, the Soloist. BNOFs, like BNOSs, like to play a long-range, low-risk game. However, rather than turn their long-range zoning into set play, they just want to keep the opponent out. You don't care much for getting cycle, as cycle interactions don't come up often. If you want to play Uni like an anime game, you may fall under this Soloist category. You don't like outright set play or outright autopilot, but you want to do what your character does and not worry about neglecting cycle or scrambling or anything like that. Characters I recommend for BNOF are Merkava and Vatista. BNOF like full screen zoning sequences and also being able to switch gears based on how the opponent reacts to zoning. BNRS, the Wall. You are a zoner. This is the zoner category. You like to stay away from your opponent. You like to use fireball patterns. You like to know how you want to zone from full screen. You want to use full screen sequences to exert your pressure. You don't want to play the cycle, like some may. And while you're willing to block, you want to get back to full screen as soon as possible. Well-timed VOs, well-timed bursts, all come into play for BNRS players. You're totally cool with using long-range chip pressure to wear the opponent down until they don't want to play anymore, and then you can finally claim victory. Characters I recommend for this, for the BNRS, are Yuzuriha, Batista, and Hilda. BNRSs like zoning patterns, chip damage, and non-interaction from full screen. Last but not least, we have BNRF, which I've dubbed the Trickster. The Trickster is a player who is willing to bide their time, but likes to take big momentum swings back in their favor once they call out opponents' mistakes. This is very similar to BARF, just less reliant on the cycle. They are defensive reads-based players with plenty of pranks that they can dig into if their opponent is overextending or biting on their defensive habits. They use the cycle against the opponent and are very good at post-CS RPS, even if it's the opponent that's CSing. If you like snap decisions that can snowball into game wins, but are also willing to stay patient when it's not your turn, you may be BNRF. Characters I recommend for this category are Gordeau, Byakuya, and also Waldstein, similar to BARF. BNRFs like pranks, well-timed reversals, and throwing the opponent's burst. Alright, so those are the 16 categories in Ryer's big personality test. Did your character line up with your type? Did you get a completely opposite one? Do you have a sub that you want to try now? Or, again, if you're getting into the game with the new Under Night coming out, did this give you an idea of where you wanted to get started? Again, this is all in good fun. I hope you enjoyed it. I had fun recording it. And yeah, let me know in the comments what you got and what you think you should have gotten, or if I was spot on. Thanks everybody for watching. I'm live on Twitch a few times a week, twitch.tv/RyerVT. If you want to see me play fighting games, and especially Under Night, which is going to be coming out sooner than we know, you can find me there. All right, y'all be good to one another. Bye-bye.